everybody, welcome back to Jessica's Reading Room. My name is Kim and today we are going to be talking Star Trek. As you guys know, I have been reading a lot of Star Trek books within the last year. Shout out to Star Trek Picard, which also came out, was it 2020 or was it back in 2019? Okay, you know what? I don't even know. Considering the fact that we're going to be talking in depth Star Trek, you'd think I would know these things, but that, I'm very sorry, that detail, it slipped my mind. Anyway, so when Star Trek Picard came out, I actually went back and did some more research on past Star Treks just to make sure that I actually was going to remember everything that was going on. I grew up watching the original series. I started watching Next Generation in college, and I have been working my way through the rest of the franchise ever since. Star Trek Picard is absolutely amazing. I'm loving it. I can't wait for season 2 to come out. I actually am all caught up on Star Trek Discovery, which I was not expecting to like, but I absolutely love it. Can't wait for season 3 to come out. So when you guys announce that air date for season 3, yes, I'm going to be very, very excited. Waiting with bated breath. Thank you. And I actually discovered Star Trek books. I've never really been a fan fiction kind of person, but I have to say, once I started reading these, they're actually really good. And there was that one series that William Shatner wrote, which I liked the first book, and the second book wasn't all that great. Her second and third books were okay. They weren't bad, but they just weren't my favorite. But that's okay. I'm enjoying reading them. I'm enjoying learning more about Star Trek. It's a franchise that I have loved since I was a kid. I'm having so much fun introducing Ivan to it, because before Ivan met me, he was exclusively Star Wars. The only Star Trek that he has actually been exposed to was the JJ Abrams movies, which brings us exactly to that topic. Back when I was doing the video review for Star Trek Discovery Drastic Measures, I actually mentioned the JJ Abrams movies, and I displayed some displeasure with those, but I said that I would explain that at a later date. Welcome to a later date. So I figured I would give you an explanation, just kind of clarify exactly what I was talking about. And for those of you Trekkies who are out there, because I realize that Jessica's Reading Room, we don't have tons of Trekkies. We have some Trekkies, just not a lot of them. You guys are probably going to get what I'm saying. Those of you who aren't Trekkies, well, who knows? Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll decide you want to be a Trekkie, because we're awesome. So let me just start out real quick by breaking down the original Roddenberry timeline, just so you can kind of get a feel for it, and then I will move on to the JJ Abrams timeline and explain why I dislike it. This timeline, I'm actually going to talk chronologically in terms of the plot, as opposed to things like filming and airing, because they're kind of all over the place when it comes to that. So let's just talk about plot line chronologically. There you go. You know what I'm saying? Get it? Yeah, I'm not very articulate today. I think because I did my hair, I put way too much effort into my hair that now I can't communicate correctly. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. Okay. Anyway, so we start out with Star Trek Enterprise. I will admit I have not actually seen Star Trek Enterprise. It's kind of low on my priority list. I just haven't heard stellar things about it, but I will get to it eventually. There you go. From what I understand, it's basically the entire series is about the making of the USS Enterprise starship. Again, I don't know. I haven't actually seen it, but I'll get there. And when I do, who knows, maybe another video and I'll explain it to you. Great idea. Next, we have Star Trek Discovery, which, yes, is a newer series, but it actually takes place 10 years before the original series. Next, you have the original series, the very original Star Trek with William Shatner as James T. Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock. That's where it started. That was Gene Roddenberry's original idea, and that is where everything started. Next, we have The Next Generation, which, considering the fact that it came right after such a classic piece of television, it actually did really, really well. If you watch interviews from the cast members, they were all like, yeah, we had no idea what we were going to do. We didn't even know if people were going to like it. Coming after something like Star Trek? What? But there you go. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Lieutenant Commander Data, Lieutenant Worf. There you go. Next, we have Deep Space Nine, which was a bit of a break in the norm, considering the fact that they're on a stationary space station, but they are guarding a wormhole that leads to a completely different quadrant of space and all the troubles that come with that. Then we have Star Trek Voyager, which basically a starship ends up getting caught out in one of those distant quadrants of space where at their maximum warp, which I'm not going to pretend to know what their maximum warp capability is. I'm assuming it's warp 9 point something. Excuse me if that's the kind of little teeny tiny detail that I don't know right off the top of my head. But at their maximum warp, it would take them 70 plus years to get home. So the series is all about Voyager trying to get home. And then that brings us to the final installment in the timeline, and that is Star Trek Picard, currently being filmed, and it's just Admiral Picard later on in life, and a big Romulan conspiracy, which I can't wait to see more of, so there you go. All right, so that is the Star Trek that I love. That is canon. I call it the Roddenberry timeline. I'm not entirely sure if other people call it whatever, but those are all Star Treks based on Star Trek by Gene Roddenberry. That brings us to JJ Abrams, who I dislike a lot. And it mainly has to do with the fact that he, as a non-Trekkie, tried to make Star Trek movies for non-Trekkies. And it shows. Yeah. I'll just come straight out and say that I do not acknowledge Abrams movies. I do not acknowledge the timeline. I do not like them. To me, it's like they don't exist, because I'll explain to you, because they mean less than nothing to me. I don't care. They don't enter into my thinking when it comes to Star Trek. Anytime I talk about Star Trek, the things that I mentioned before, the Roddenberry timeline, that's what I am referring to. I in no way acknowledge JJ Abrams and his movies. They are labeled the Kelvin timeline, and that in itself shows the problem. It is a timeline. In Star Trek, there is always a very set precedent when it comes to time travel. And I know now we're going to start getting into those like little Trekkie details. And Becky, I can hear you in the background going, nerd alert. Okay, it's true. I don't pretend to hide it. Okay, it's just who I am. I had to explain this to Ivan because Ivan could not understand why I hated JJ Abrams and his movies so much. Then I explained it to him. Then I started showing him the original Star Trek, and now he dislikes Abrams almost as much as I do. So there's some merit there, okay? Anyway, so within the Star Trek franchise, there are very set precedents for time travel. It starts out in the original series. There are multiple episodes, multiple movies that deal with time travel, and it's always the same thing. You go back in time and you change the past, you therefore change the future. That's how it's always been. That's how it always will be. Listen, Disney and Marvel can go do whatever the hell they want to with it, and you know what? Fine. You want to cheat to make a movie? Go ahead. Not my problem. Don't care. I'm talking about the Star Trek universe, where you go back in time, you change the past, you change the future. That's why every time they go back in time, they're always so paranoid that they can't change anything, that they can't you change something here, you know, our future may not be waiting for us because of whatever we changed in the past. That's what JJ Abrams did with his movie. I even went back to rewatch some of his first movie because that is the only one I've seen. I have not seen the other two. I have no desire to see the other two. I made the mistake of watching the trailers for the other two, and I have no interest whatsoever. None. I'm basing this on the first movie, and that is, you have a Romulan traveling back from, what did Spock say, 130 years in the future to try and take revenge on Ambassador Spock, who had also traveled back into the past. The only problem is that this Romulan, who is tattooed on his face, which, where the hell that came from? Romulans don't tattoo their faces. And they don't shave their heads like that. And it just, okay, all right. Anyway, he comes back. He attacks the USS Kelvin, where James T. Kirk's parents are on board. His father ends up being acting captain of the ship and ends up dying just as James T. Kirk is being born, and his mother escapes on a shuttlecraft. Okay, and there's the change. That's the change in the past. From that moment on, JJ Abrams completely destroyed the Roddenberry timeline. Because like I said, in Star Trek, you change the past, you change the future. By changing James T. Kirk's past, he therefore changed the timeline. He completely demolished everything that Gene Roddenberry had created. Everything from the point of James T. Kirk's birth on. Which means, as far as I know, that includes everything Enterprise on. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with it. Roddenberry deserves so much more than to have all of his work completely destroyed by a non-Trekkie trying to make an epic sci-fi movie. It's not good. I won't accept it. I won't acknowledge it. But see, and then there were a lot of people who were claiming, and see, they tried to work their way around that, because there were a lot of Trekkies who all said something about it. We're a very vocal fan base. That's what we do. And there were a lot of Trekkies who all came out and said, look, you can't just disrespect Roddenberry like that. What? You can't do that. So then they started saying things like, well, this is all happening in a parallel universe. This is all happening in a different universe. Not the same universe as Roddenberry, not the same universe as any of the other Star Trek TV shows or movies. Completely, here's their universe. This is the universe that we're operating in. Which, if they had made the movie like that, you wouldn't have heard a peep out of me. Okay, you would have. Because JJ Abrams destroyed Vulcan. And I don't care which universe you're in, you don't destroy Vulcan. Okay? That's ridiculous. And you're a moron if you think that's okay. All right? Got it, JJ? That's right. Shh. You have given up all rights to having an opinion about Star Trek. Got it, Abrams? Good. Okay. See, I get all worked up because, okay. Anyways, that could have worked had they done it intentionally, because in several of the Star Trek franchises, Discovery, the original series, Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine. I'm not sure about Voyager because I haven't actually seen all of Voyager yet, so who knows? There could actually be some precedent in Voyager as well. I'm not entirely sure, but there could be. There is precedent of a mirror universe. One where it's operating completely parallel to our universe. We've got, there are counterparts to all of us existing. It branched off because of a choice that someone had made, where the choice ended up branching off into, infinite number of universes. And I guess that's how it works. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. I'm not going to tell you how. I don't know. Okay. I'm just telling you what I see. Anyway, so this parallel universe was according to set canon, was discovered when Kirk, Scotty, Uhura, and McCoy were trying to beam back to the Enterprise in the middle of a ion storm. Don't quote me on that part, because that's getting into the little sciencey part that I can't actually claim to understand completely. Anyway, they ended up transporting into the mirror universe, and their mirror counterparts transported to our Enterprise. It's something where they learned that in this universe there is the Terran Empire. Basically, it's a humans-only empire. You have multiple other alien species who are trying to rebel against it to win their freedom, etc., etc. You learn more about that in Discovery, which technically happens before the original series. You do see some of it, and I take back what I said. There might not actually be, because that's a different timeline in that one episode. Okay, so I'm not sure about Next Generation, but definitely multiple episodes in Deep Space Nine. Plus, there are lots of books written about it, Shatner's trilogy actually being one of them. So there is precedent set for a parallel universe. The only problem is JJ Abrams didn't take advantage of that, okay? Because when Chris Pine is talking to Leonard Nimoy, I'm not even going to call them by their real names. Okay, Spock I can, because he's like the only legitimate person there. When Chris Pine is talking to Spock and Ambassador Spock is trying to explain to him what's going on, he says, 130 years from now, this star goes supernova, the Romulans all die, and now this guy is coming back for revenge because I didn't save his planet. So there you go. That's it. All arguments for, oh, well, this happened in a parallel universe. It didn't. You made this about time. You made this a timeline. Basically saying that you changed one detail in the past. One. Which then completely erased everything. Everything. Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, the original series, Discovery, everything is now non-existent because you screwed with the timeline. Everything that Roddenberry created is now gone because of your stupid decision to turn this into a timeline issue as opposed to a parallel universe situation. That's why I'm upset. That's why I'm mad. Okay? Because the Star Trek that we all fell in love with, the Roddenberry timeline, with that one movie, was rendered null and void. Non-existent. And I'm not good. That's like saying that we're going to make a Star Wars movie that's, episode 0.5, where actually one of the Sith Lords discovers time travel and he goes back and he kills Shmi Skywalker before she has Anakin. Would you be happy with that? Would those of you Star Wars fans out there be okay with that? See what I mean? It doesn't work. Then you keep looking into it, and I know there are some things that it's me being picky, okay? I admit it. It's me being picky. I tried rewatching Star Trek, his first movie, and it annoyed me within the first 2 seconds because even the sound effects weren't right. The soundtrack didn't work. The only good things that I can say about the original Star Trek movie by JJ Abrams is the casting for Dr. McCoy and for Pavel Chekhov. Karl Urban and Anton Yelchin? Yeah, the kid who died. Those were the perfect casting choices. It's like they studied their characters and totally got it. Everything else didn't work. Everything else was not Star Trek. Everything, like I said, it was, and it's like a non-Trekkie is trying to make a Star Trek movie for other non-Trekkies. And I even said, when I was rewatching this, I texted Ivan and I told him, I was like, I'm really pissed. I'm really mad. I cannot believe that people fell for this. I can't. Why? And he goes, babe, it's a movie for non-Trekkies only. And there's the problem. You had a golden opportunity to make an epic sci-fi movie that had nothing to do with Star Trek. Why did you bring Star Trek into it? Of all things, why would you do that? But what did you do? You sacrificed everything that we love, everything that we grew up with, everything that made us fall in love with Star Trek, and you killed it. And that's, and what really, okay, and I'll tell you this, what really annoyed me was while I was sitting there, because I was on Amazon Prime, and I went to go rent the movie, and the little description said, and the greatest adventure of all time begins with Star Trek. And something about all these young Starfleet cadets head out on their maiden voyage on the USS Enterprise. And I'm just sitting there and I'm reading it and I'm going, what? I mean, listen, you need to sit your ass down, quit taking credit for things that you had nothing to do with. You're actually going to claim that the greatest adventure of all time started with you? Nuh-uh. No, not even close. Okay? If anything, the greatest adventure of all time ended with you because you killed it. Okay, all right. So this turned into a bit of a rant session, and I'd like to apologize for that because you guys know that I get all crazy when I go ranting, and I don't mean to. It's just, I get very passionate about things, and especially things that I really love, like Star Trek. I just can't help it when people ruin things that I adore. I had the same problem when they remade Beauty and the Beast, which I haven't even seen the live action remake. Because I love the original. Why would you need to fix it? See what I mean? I know, it's just yeah, so, and like I said, it's not even just the timeline. I mean, his decisions were those, again, of a non-Trekkie. He didn't understand Star Trek. You do not go in and destroy Vulcan. The hell is wrong with you, dude? He didn't understand the characters. James T. Kirk was not... I'm starting to sweat, which means that my hair is going to start frizzing, and it's making me upset as well. James T. Kirk was not, can never be thought of as reckless. That's not who James T. Kirk was. There is a huge difference between reckless and maverick. James T. Kirk was always in control. That's how it was. When he had a problem, an external problem, he would stop, okay? He even acknowledged, I mean, in Wrath of Khan, when, Khan Noonien Singh showed up, disguised as just your friendly neighborhood Federation ship, and then fired on the Enterprise. Yeah, fired on the Enterprise with her shields down. Kirk even admitted he got caught with his britches down, and as soon as he assessed the situation, he was in control. He knew what was going on. He was ahead of Khan in every move. As opposed to him just getting into fights all the time. Kirk doesn't create problems, okay? Kirk solves problems. Spock, oh my gosh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mind Zachary Quinto until they cast him as Spock, and I still haven't forgiven him for that absolutely revolting performance, okay? Spock, yes, was there always an internal struggle within Spock between his human side and his Vulcan side? Yes, of course, duh, but he was not a whiny little bitch about it like Zachary Quinto portrayed. Okay, all right, okay, see, calm down, everything's fine. There's no point in freaking out about this. Relax. So yes. So like I said, I wanted to explain to you guys what I was talking about when I was talking about the Kelvin timeline, why it annoyed me. Hopefully I made sense. I get it that you guys are not actually Trekkies. I understand that. I get it, but hopefully I was concise enough to actually convey it. If you're not a Trekkie, but you would actually like to join the fandom and just see the things that we have all fallen in love with, then by all means, get in contact with me. I will give you a list, my friends. I will do it, and hopefully you will fall in love. Because that's what we do. We just enjoy geeking out over things. And at Jessica's reading room, the fact that we can all geek out, you know, with this right now, Jessica's geeking out with Outlander. I've never seen Outlander. She keeps telling me I need to watch it, and I keep telling her she needs to watch Star Trek. So there you go. So see, overlap. We've got this nice little overlap, and we'll eventually see all of it, and we'll eventually just cover everything because our interests are very broad here. Yay us. Anyway, so there you go. There is my explanation. I realized that I ramble and ranted a lot, but hopefully you guys stuck with me. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. If you have any questions, please let us know down in the comments. If you actually have opinions, I would love to hear them. If we have any Trekkies out there who are fans of Jessica's Reading Room, I would love to hear from you guys too. And like I said, those of you non-Trekkies out there, if you would like to join the fandom, comment and we'll talk. Sound good? Excellent. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Live long and prosper.